intermediate to semi-advanced kind of exercises, but heading in that direction. So not actually advanced stuff, but starting kind of the prep work for that. I'm just going to mute you quickly, Monique. Sorry. There you go. If you need to, then you're welcome to unmute yourself and have a chat if anything is bugging you. But so we're going to continue with just a couple of little semi-advanced, intermediate-ish sort of things, just to, you know, keep things interesting. Okay, but let's start off by just centering our weight over our feet. Check that your feet are pointing straight forward, so they're parallel to one another. You're going to soften into the knees just a little bit and go tall through the spine, so through the crown of your head, lengthen up through the spine. And then we're going to start just by swaying side to side. But I want you to try and keep your body in a column. That's it. So the tendency is often for the hips to kind of do the shift, and so you kind of banana side to side. But try and keep everything stacked in one piece as you just shift onto one foot and then into the other. And just notice if maybe your toes want to curl a little bit and hold onto the mat. Toe curling exercise. That'll come later. There we go. So going side to side. And it's sometimes a little bit handy if you've got a mirror or if you can see yourself on the screen, that you can kind of gauge what your body is doing. And then you're going to slow it down and center yourself and start shifting forwards and backwards. And again with this one, only shift as far backwards as you can hinge in a straight line and that your toes don't grab onto the mat. So it's quite hard not to let them like hold on as you lean back. It's a small movement backwards. But actually what you're doing is you're just engaging those core muscles in the front line of your body as you come backwards. So the toes try to take over, but it's quite an interesting little check-in. In fact, if you even just close your eyes and slow it down and just notice like which muscles kind of suddenly just like tension a little bit to hold you from falling over backwards. There you go. And then you can kind of center your weight and slow it down. Open your eyes if they were closed. I want you to take your right hand and put it on the top of your left rib cage. So what we're doing now is we're mapping out. So it's just below your sternum. You've got where your ribs would kind of curve in and up. You want to just place your hand. It's quite a, you don't have to press too hard. We're just mapping. So this is where your psoas or your deep hip flexors run from. So they actually attach right from the top of the back of your spine. And then to the inside, if you look for the seam of your pants, the inside of your inner thigh. So put your hand there. It's a little bit weird and awkward. Don't worry about it too much. Standing on, so if you have done, yeah, have I done the right? Yeah, we did right hand. So I did left hand. Perfect. Okay. So you're standing on your right leg. You're going to stack all of your bones onto that right side, transfer your weight over, and then just start swinging your left leg. And the reason you're swinging, you're keeping everything else quiet. The reason your hands are there is because that length between your two hands gets longer every time you swing the leg. The only reason your leg swings is because of the elasticity in that hip flexor and that deep psoas muscle. There's quite an important elasticity to be aware of in terms of the locking that can happen. So if your hip flexor is locked, then it tightens your whole body into like a forwards bend. So it's really just for like a little bit of kind of feedback. And then you can maybe soften the knee on the side that you are standing on, but keep that body stacked. So keep tall through the spine and breathe, because even with that elastic psoas, you want to have elastic breath. So your rib cage is still able to expand and contract. Well done, you made it. Just in time for waking up those. You can go around the front or the back. I'll try not to kick you in the shins on your way past. There we go. And you should be feeling that right hip kind of waking up a little bit, yeah? Saying good morning. All right, and then you can pause there. Don't worry for a second, Mom. You're going to just shift the weight over. And as you step off that leg, you're like, oh, on that right hip. Okay, so now you're going to stand. You can start standing on your right. Doesn't really matter. Okay, so standing on your left side, take your right hand and place it. You take your left hand, my apologies. You take your left hand, I'll do my right hand. Place it on the top of your rib cage, so where it kind of curls up towards your breastbone on the edge of the rib cage. That's it. So that's the top of your psoas muscle. Find the seam of your pants on the inside, right up quite high. Stack your body on top of that left leg, and you can just start swinging that leg. it's a little bit awkward, but what I was saying is that you're checking, this maps out where your psoas, your deep hip flexor, runs from. So it's from the top of your spine at the back there, and just swinging it backwards and forwards. So try and stack yourself on that left leg, and let that elasticity, just be aware of that length. So the only reason your leg is swinging is because your hip flex is getting longer as it goes backwards. Keep everything else quiet if you can, so you're lengthening up through your spine the whole time. Go. And Mom, you can change over to the other side if you can figure that out. Because we're about halfway. We can't have you all lopsided and bent in half. Keep going, and I reckon that that left little hip is saying good morning. Yes, the butt on that left side. Let it swing from the top of the hip, hey? So you're not, your knee can bend a little bit if it just flicks a bit, but it's more of a hip swing than it is a knee bend. We've got about 10 seconds to go. Don't forget to breathe. Nice, staying tall through the spine and stepping down onto that side. Oh, you feel it, hey? Just wakes up those glute medius. It's that little sideways stabilizing muscle, super important muscle, right? Standing on your right side again. Hands are going to be on the hips this time. And you're going to bend that right knee down. Take your left foot out in front of you. See if you can stack your body. So you can have your foot touching the floor, so it gives you a bit of a point of contact. But bend that right knee, stack your spine. So you're up nice and tall. You only bend as much as you can in terms of your knee. And then you're going to slide that left leg around to about 9 o'clock on the clock. 3 o'clock. And then coming back 9 o'clock for you guys. And then going around and then forwards. And try and be aware of your pelvis that is staying straight forwards. So as your leg goes to the side, it's not allowed to swivel. So to the side, it'll tend to want to kind of swivel on that leg. And what it's doing is that this leg, your left leg, is fairly irrelevant actually as to what it's doing. It's more important that that right leg is holding you in that straight position. So it's a glute med, little wake up call. Almost done. One more. There we go. And then bringing it back in, changing over to the other side. And you'll feel your quad working because you're keeping quite a deep bend there. Bending those knees down again on the left side this time. Stack all of your joints, grow tall through the spine. Take your right foot out in front of you and then going out to the side. You can go as far as you can without that swivel. So keep those hips straight forward. You might feel that it actually engages quite a lot as you get to the side. So the further out you can go, the more you have to kind of squeeze your bum to pull that leg around. But make sure that those hips are staying straight forward the whole time. Go. Nice. Keep bent on that leg that you're standing on. And breathe. There you go. And then maybe try and take away that like laser beam glare at something. So you're like staring at one point so you don't fall over. So maybe you can shift the eyes around a little bit. And just one more. Nice. Bring it back to the center and step those feet together and take the pressure off. You can shake out the legs a little bit. Turn so that you are standing at the back of your mat, just so that you've got something that you're not going to kind of get away from. You're going to take a big step forwards. Wide step. You can move your feet slightly apart so that they're not straight in line with one another. So you've got a fairly wide-ish stance, kind of hip distance apart with the feet. And then you're going to bend down on the back knee. So coming down just to hovering above the floor if you can. Then shooting off that back leg, you're going to lift it up in front of you into a stork stand. And then you're going to hinge yourself forwards, let that leg go backwards and going into what we call your Trendelenburg, or whatever you want to call it, aeroplanes. And then bring that leg forwards and up into your stork stand. Take a back big step and lunge down. I'm going to do 6 on one side. So push yourself forwards. Going with your own sort of flow, lengthen yourself out, coming back up, and a big step back. Make sure you're stepping far enough back that you don't take strain in the knees, and also only going as low as it feels okay in the knees. And a big step back. Nice. Tummy's nice and tight. And everything's controlled. And we've got one more to go, I think. Step forwards and going back. This is the toe curling exercise. It's that unpleasant. Big step back, lunging down, and step both of those feet together and forwards. There we go. Let's change over to the other side. Okay, catch the breath. You'll feel the heart rate goes up. The only reason the heart rate goes up with that one is that you're using such big muscles and it's pumping your blood back up, so your heart has to work harder to kind of process all of the stuff. Okay, stepping back with your other leg. So I don't know which side you guys started on. I don't think I asked. So big step, wider, wider, wider. Come forwards with your front leg there, Mom. That looks good. Lean down on the back knee. Push off the back leg, up into your stork stand. Hinge yourself forwards. Hinge yourself back up. And then step yourself far back. So it's a big step back. Tummy stays tight and find your own sort of flow. You want to do 6 of these. You want to keep your hips as stable as you can. So particularly as you go into that aeroplane Trendelenburg business, try and keep the leg that goes backwards, keep that hip down. Don't let it lift up. You'll find that your hips want to rotate a little bit. Yeah. It's looking good. Tummy nice and tight. Good. Oops, I'm going to fall over. Don't watch me. I think we've got 1 to go, hey? Don't forget to breathe. Oh gosh, the side is wobbly. There's always a side that does better than the other one. Last one is a lunge back, and then step those feet together. And just shake it out a little bit. So it's nice to kind of wake up the legs. Maybe it's not nice, but it's good too. It's good for you. It's like Brussels sprouts. Okay, take a big step forwards with your right leg. Sorry, right leg, big step forwards. And slowly lower that left knee all the way down to the mat. You might want a towel under the knee. What's that noise? Oh, is it your foot squeaking? I thought it was like some weird bird outside squeaking. Okay. So if you need something under the knee, then that's fine, do so. Make sure that your front foot, your right foot, is quite far forwards in front of that knee. That's it. Okay, hands on the hips if you would like to, or down by the sides, not too serious. Just shifting the hips forward. So you're shifting that right knee forward so that it almost comes over that ankle, in line with the ankle. And just hold it there. You should feel already a bit of a stretch in the front of the hip. Maybe. Take the shoulders back just a little bit, but keep the tummy tight so you're not arching into the back. You're pushing forwards into the hip. Squeeze the left bum. And just pretend this is like a sweat towel. Like I've got a moustache of sweat going on here. Squeeze the left bum. So you should feel quite an opening in the front of that left hip. Hold it there for a few seconds longer. Take your left hand and take it up to the sky. So right up to the side, to your ear. There you go. And then maybe, if it's available to you, you've still got a big stretch in the front of that left hip flexor. You're going to tilt yourself over to the right, just a fraction. Don't fall over, but now you're just opening up the side of that hip a little bit more. There we go, holding it there for a few seconds. Keep that body up nice and tall. Come back up to the center, arm comes down to the side, and you can place both hands down onto the mat. In fact, put your right hand onto your right knee, put your left hand down onto the mat. Twist your shoulders to the right side. So you're trying to rotate as much as you can in the spine so that your shoulders face the right side. And then see if you can release that right hand up to the sky and hold that rotation. So it is a mobilization, but it's an active mobilization. So you're having to work your rotators to hold yourself in that stretch. Hold it there for a little bit longer. And then you can slowly take that hand down to the inside of your right foot. Place both hands onto the mat, shoulder width apart. You might want to move your right foot out to the side a little bit. You can just wriggle it out. You're going to tuck your toes on that left foot, lift the left knee, and sweep the right foot all the way back out to the left foot. You'll find yourself in a little plank position. Keep the bum down if you can. We're not going to be here for long. And then let's see if you can step your left foot to the outside of your left hand. Big step. If you can't make it, that's fine. Put your right knee down and then wriggle that foot back up. So just find your kind of foot to the outside of the left hand. You're going to put your right knee down now. Release the foot out the back. Bring yourself all the way up into your kneeling position. Here you go. Okay, wriggle that foot in maybe just a little bit, but not too much. You want to have that left foot quite far in front of your left knee, and you don't want them in a straight line, so you want them to be slightly split, your legs. Okay, hands can be down to the sides or on your hips. It's not too serious. Slide the weight forwards. Slide the weight forwards so that your left knee comes almost in line with your left ankle. Squeeze the bum a little bit. That's sore in the knee. Put up that towel under your knee. Let's see if a bit of padding helps. Everybody hold it there. And you can just squeeze that right bum cheek a little bit. So pushing the hips a little bit more forwards into the joint. Right, paste. Is that any better? No. And then take that right arm up to your ear. Here we go. Hold it there. And see if you can tilt yourself over to the left a little bit. Feel it opening up a little bit more into the right hip flexor. Except you're really not helping me here. Holding it there. That's good. Should feel a nice stretch in the front of that right hip. And then you can bring that arm all the way back down. You're going to place your right hand down to the right hand down to the inside of the left foot. Left hand on the left knee. Twist the shoulders around to that left side. So see if you can swivel as much as you can into the spine, and then release that arm up to the ceiling. So take that left hand up to the ceiling, holding it there. So feel that active rotation. Just lift that knee more. No. And try and release your foot out the back maybe. Any difference? No. Hold it there. That looks excellent. Keep twisting into the shoulders. And then you can lower that hand slowly back down, put it to the inside of the left foot. Both hands are flat, shoulder width apart. Move the left foot out to the side if you need to. Hook that right foot underneath and lift up the right leg. Pull the tummy tight, give a squeeze on the bum, and take the left leg back to meet the right leg. So back into your front bridge. Hold it there for just a few seconds. Push up between the shoulder blades, squeeze into the armpits, find your neutral neck position, lower your knees if you need to, and then I want you to see if you can keep your hips level and just lift one foot. Breathe. If you need to, then lift one knee. Hold, hold, hold. Keep everything else quiet and put that foot back down. Change to the other side. As little shift as possible. Keep squeezing the bum. The knees are tight and strong and long and straight. There we go. Hold it there. Don't hold the breath. Putting that foot slowly back down. Bend the knees and sit back briefly into your rest position. Catch the breath. So even although you will hopefully not have been holding your breath, it increases your heart rate because you're tightening up your large muscle groups. So it's putting a large squeeze on the vascular system. Hold it there for a few more seconds. We're going to pull yourself back up onto all fours. I'm going to do one more slightly intense one, and then we'll take it down a notch or two. I want you to take your right leg back. So now in your planks, if you need to do this with your knees down, do it. That's all good. Take the right foot back, tuck the toes. Tighten that right knee so that leg is dead straight. Squeeze the bum so you get a bit of a bum tuck as you lift your left knee and your left leg goes out to join your right. Okay, so you want to have a bit of a bum tuck. You don't want to be sagging into the lower back. You're pushing up between the shoulder blades. You're squeezing into the armpits. Your neck is in a neutral position. And then let's see if you can lift the one foot. Hold it there. And we're going to do 4 taps with that foot. Tap it down and back up. 2, 3, 4. Put the foot down, change to the other side. Bum tuck, tummy tight. Lift that foot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put that foot down, gently lower the knees, don't collapse, and sit yourself back. Lots of shoulder girdle work actually. So with that one, you're using a ton of core muscles but your shoulders have to work really hard to be in a good, strong, stable position. So well done on that one. That got me a little bit puffing. Nothing wrong with that. All right. You're going to pull yourself, pull yourself back up onto all fours. Take your hands wide, not quite wider than the mat, but to the outside edges of the mat and quite far forward, so in front of your shoulders. You're going to let your hips start coming through the gap. Keep your tummy tight, and you're going to just lower your thighs down towards the mat. The idea with this one is called a swan stretch. So you're going into quite an extended position, but your tummy is supporting you the whole time. If this feels uncomfortable, you can go forwards more with your hands. You can go wider with your hands. You can go onto your elbows. Push up through the shoulders. So be careful you're not sagging into the neck. Wriggle yourself around to find a comfortable position that you feel like you're extending into your spine, but you're not collapsing into your lower back. That's it, perfect. And find that melting point, if you can, under the shoulder blades. So often in this position, we use all lower back. So we just literally collapse and compress into the lower back. So see if you can maybe push your breastbone a little bit towards the wall in front of you. We're only doing one of these. And then you're going to slowly start bending your elbows, but you're peeling your spine down towards the mat. So see if you can go slowly, slowly, one vertebra at a time, lowering yourself down, forehead down to the mat, and your elbows can come out to the sides, so you're framing your face. Legs are out nice and long. That's nice. If we just get some little people to come walk all over our backs, that would be so lovely, hey? All right, anyway, we don't have that available. So we're going to squeeze the bum, push the pelvis into the mat. So that's anchoring the lower back. So you're not using your lower back with this one. You're going to tighten your legs so they're nice and long and strong, but they stay down on the mat. Breathe in and see if you can lift that top of your sternum away from the mat. You're squeezing the bum and you're holding that little baby cobra. You could push on your arms a little bit if you want to help a little bit. You don't need to get too much height. You just need to find that soft spot or that melting point below the shoulder blades. And just hold it there. And then come slowly back down. And you can reset yourself, so kind of find the position that's going to work for you. We're going to slowly lift ourselves up again. So squeeze the bum first, you anchor the pelvis. The legs are nice and long and stay down on the mat. Lifting the chest with your breath. As you breathe in, that gives you your kind of movement, lifting the top of your sternum away from the mat. Bottom of the sternum pushes into the mat. Now I want you to imagine, if your arms are not too sticky on the floor, you're going to slide your arms forwards into a low V and then slide them back. So don't spend too long with your arms out in front of you, but you slide them forwards and bring it back. Don't lose the bum squeeze. Keep checking in with that melting point in the upper back or middle back. Shoulders stay away from the ears. So feel like you're swooping your shoulder blades downwards as you push your hands upwards. Let's just do two more. Breathe, don't lose height. Last one. Forgive everyone a cloth and we'll clean my floor and lower slowly back down and wriggle those hips side to side just a little bit. So when I say the lower back mustn't work, it does work, but you don't want to feel it taking over. That's quite important. All right, we're going to do exactly the same thing. If it felt okay, we might add on a little bit. So you kind of go with what feels okay for your body. So if it only feels okay to go into that baby cobra and maybe hover your arms, then just do that. You don't have to add the slide of the hands, and you don't have to add on to that. So squeeze the bum, anchor the pelvis. As you breathe in, follow that movement of your chest and just lift the chest a fraction away from the mat. Lift your head just a little bit, but keep your neck long if you can, so you're not crunching into the neck. And then let's slide those hands forwards and stay there. So keep the arms, they're still in contact with the mat, so you can have a little bit of pressure into your hands to help a little bit. Find that melting point below the shoulder blades, squeeze the bum, anchor the pelvis again. Your legs are long, but now you're going to try and hover them just from the bottom of the bum is what lifts. And you just hover those legs. Hold it there for a few seconds. You might know what's coming, but see if you can hover those hands just a fraction. Hold it there. Breathe. Don't lose height on the chest if you can help it. Squeeze the bum, push the pelvis into the mat, and lower everything slowly back down. Nice. If that felt okay, we're going to add on one last little step. If it didn't, then go back a few steps. So as many steps as you need to. Go back to the original starting point if you need to. That's perfect. Squeeze the bum, push the pelvis into the mat. Legs are long and strong. Breathe in, lift the top of your breastbone. Hold it there. Check in with your bum squeeze, so your lower back's not taking over. See if you can float those legs up off the floor. And then see if you can float the arms up. And hold it there. And then we're going to go into our cross pattern swimming. So see if you can lift your left arm a little bit higher and the right leg a little bit higher. And then changing sides. So keeping the legs long, the knees don't bend. It's a bum lift and it's a back of the shoulder lift. Going as slowly as it feels okay for you. Or not at all. So go back a few steps if it doesn't feel great. And if you need to, then go down and reset. Don't forget to breathe. And then center the arms and the legs and lower everything slowly back down. Wriggle the hips side to side. Bring the hands under your shoulders. Let your elbows pop up and push yourself all the way back into your rest position. There we go. Try and get a little bit of a rounding just before your bum comes down to the heels. Round that spine and then stretch those arms forwards. Swimming is one of the advanced exercises, so it's actually really hard. Once you get it, you add breath and you add speed and all that nonsense. So it's not nonsense, but it can be really hard work. So that's kind of an intermediate level of doing it. If you're able to do that cross pattern and keep the rest of your body nice and quiet. Takes a bit of time to get there. Hold it there for just another breath in and a breath out. And you're going to bring the hands slowly back towards your knees and pull yourself up onto all fours. You're going to have your feet released out behind you and your knees are below your hips, your wrists are below your shoulders. You might want your wrist supports for this one if you need wrist supports, and you might want some extra padding under the knees. We're going to go into a nice little cat stretch. So tuck the tailbone under, lift up into the abdominal muscles, round into the shoulders, look to your tummy. So you get as active a flexion as you can, and then from the tailbone, you start uncurling the spine. Let the tummy come down, but don't just lose the back downwards. It's all controlled. Lift the chest forwards, maybe lift the gaze and see if you want to go into that extension. And then tuck the tailbone under. So rippling through the spine, work from one side or one end of the spine. Rounding your spine, push between the shoulder blades, look to your belly, and then uncurl the tailbone. Let the spine come down towards the mat, lift the gaze, extending, shoulders away from the ears. And one more time, rounding into the spine. Last one. Pushing up between the shoulder blades, pulling into the tummy. And then coming down, but finding your neutral. So not going into an extension with this one. So find your neutral spine, which means you've got a little bit of a curve in the lower back. You're pushing up strongly between the shoulder blades and you're looking about 2 feet in front of your hands. You keep your spine in that position, and all I want you to do is let your chest sink down towards the mat. Keep your elbows straight. You just sink the chest down, you sag between the shoulder blades, and then you pull your chest away from the mat as if someone's poking you in the chest. So you've got to lift your chest away from the poke and push up between the shoulder blades, and then lowering slowly back down. So it's a very isolated movement. Everything else stays quiet. You push up away from the mat and you sag down towards the mat. You're just lifting between the shoulder blades. Keep the shoulders away from the ears if you can. Your neck stays long, and be aware of your chin poking down towards the mat as you sag down between the shoulder blades. Keep your spine neutral. It's a really important activator of the scapula. So your shoulder blades have a little muscle that attach them to the rib cage, your serratus anterior, and if it's not working properly, then it causes a lot of dysfunction around the shoulders. I'm just going to do 1 or 2 more. Squeeze that orange into the armpits as you lift up, and then pause in that uplifted position. So you're now pushing up between the shoulder blades. Your chest is lifted away from the floor. Your shoulders are away from your ears because you're squeezing that orange into the armpits. Your spine is still neutral. Now, bending your elbows towards your knees, doing a half little push-up, and then pushing back up. That's it. So you're bending the elbows down. Elbows go towards your knees. So you keep them tucked in the whole time. Very much a tricep exercise. Bending down, squeeze the armpits. And that armpit squeeze is important because it gets your shoulders correctly into the joint. It means that you don't start taking over into your neck. Almost done. We've got 2 to go. Don't forget to breathe. 1 more. And then sit yourself back into a resting position. Stretch your arms out in front of you to start off with, but then you could bend your elbows and place your hands behind your head in almost like a reverse little prayer position kind of thing. And you'll feel quite a nice stretch on those triceps, hopefully. Your hands are just tucked behind your head. If that doesn't feel okay, then just go into a normal rest position, whatever feels nice. Focus just briefly on your breath. So deep breaths in, stretching out between your ribs. And then emptying your lungs completely as you breathe out. So every last little drop of air leaves your lungs as you completely flatten the rib cage. And just 1 more breath cycle. So breathing in deeply, breathing out. And then when you've finished that last breath, you can pull yourself back up and lying down onto your left side. So sad that that has to end. All right. You're going to lie flat on that left arm. We're going to have your bottom leg bent actually. So because it's a Friday, we'll be nice and have a nice morning. So bend the bottom knee. Doesn't matter too much where it is, but make sure your hips are stacked, so one on top of the other at right angles to the floor. And let's take your right hand to your hip, so onto the shelf of your hip. Here we go. You're going to have your top leg out long, and you're going to lift that top leg up just to above hip height. Here we go. And just hold it there for a few seconds. You're holding it there to check in. If Moni's still with us, yes you are. Okay, you just froze for a while. You're going to just check in with your alignment. So check that your ankle and your knee and your hip and your shoulder and your ear are all in a nice straight line. So check that alignment first. And now because you're holding it there, you might be waking up a little bit on the side of the hip there. Check with that left oblique. So have you got that ray of sunshine going under the waistline? Here we go. And then lowering that leg down towards the floor and lifting it back up. So only as high as you can go without that hip moving and without losing the contact on your, not the contact, but losing the connection on that left side. And going down, up and down. Good. You've taken the top shoulder away from the ear. That's the last 2. A nice, easy, basic one, but it's good to check in with these connections. Last one. Go. And pause there. You can bend both of your knees now, so they both stay together. You're going to have your feet glued together. Place your top hand in front of your tummy for now. And just check that your heels are in line with your bum. So you don't want your knees too far forward. You want your heels like back a little bit. That's it. And the heels are quite bent. I mean, your knees are quite bent, so your heels are quite close to your bum. We're going to lift that top knee up. So also another super basic exercise. But while we're doing this, you're keeping your hips still and you're keeping that little ray of sunshine coming from under the left hip, the left waistline. So lifting it up as high as you can without moving anything else. Try not to let the neck get involved. Good. Last two. And nice and relatively easy, but this one you'll almost always feel if you're going high enough. And on the next one, you're going to lift up and hold it there. Lift both of your feet up, so pushing from that bottom foot, going into a diamond shape as high as you can. Don't worry about that oblique anymore. And then come slowly down and close the knees. Lift the knee and lift the feet. And now you're going to feel some work happening on the sidelines there and into the glutes. So keep going up and down in your own time. And you can close the knees fully, or you can kind of not. It's not actually too serious. It's less about the close than it is about the height that you can get into that diamond shape. And you'll feel those hips working. Careful that the hips haven't rolled backwards. Good. Almost done. That's our second last one. We've got one to go. And last one. Left squeeze, bum. And slowly down and relax there. Bring those knees a little bit higher now in front of you. I'll give the bum a bit of a rub if you need to. And stretching that right arm out in front of you as far as you can. And then lift it up and over and around to the back. So get a really nice rotation. Going as far around as you can. So whatever feels good in that position. We don't force it. You can let your hips slide a little bit. So a lot of people are kind of trained to keep your hips and your knees together and only go as far as that will allow. In this one, I want you just to relax the hips and the knees and the legs and let everything kind of flop into that rotation. Taking nice deep breaths. And this one varies on where you'll feel it. So you might feel it into the spine. You might feel it into the chest on that left side, on the right side. You might also feel it across the hips because we've done a little bit of glute work today. And then you're going to take that right hand, all the way up and over and stretch it forwards on the mat in front of you, rotating that right shoulder down towards the mat. So get a nice counter stretch. You might feel this one in sort of your mid-thoracic. So that kind of gives you a bit of a release there. And then bringing that hand all the way back. And you're going to roll yourself over or swing your legs around, whatever suits you. So now you're lying on your right side. Find that comfortable place for your head and your neck. Bent knee on the bottom. Put whatever padding you need under your hip, hey? If you struggle with your hip being in contact with the mat, these yoga mats or Pilates mats are not always like super padded, unless you double up, hey? Okay, hold it there for a few seconds. You're going to have that long top leg out straight and lift it up to about hip height. And while you're holding it there, let's just check in with a few things. So check your alignment. So you've got your ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, ear, all in a straight line. You've got that little ray of sunshine coming through under that right oblique muscle. And your neck is relaxed as possible. Let's take that top hand onto the shelf of your hip. There we go. Try in that position though, I want you to keep that little armpit connection. So try and keep that top shoulder away from the ear. It's hell of an easy to let it lift up to the ear in that particular position. If you wanted to, you could take your arm down long along your thigh. You're welcome to do that. That's entirely up to you. I find this gives me more information about whether my hip is lifting up and down or not. Now we're going to lower that leg down towards the mat and then lifting it back up. So just a nice slow controlled movement. And what you're checking in with here is a little bit less about that leg and more about that right oblique. And is your neck able to stay relaxed? So those two things are going to try and be forgotten or take over. That looks good. Lifting as high as you can without losing that connection on the right side. Relax that neck on the left shoulder. Last two. And last one. And coming slowly back down. You can bend that knee in. So keep those feet together now. Check that your heels are in line with your bum. So the knees aren't allowed to come too far forwards. You can place your top hand in front of your tummy. And we're going to just go into our little clam. So nice, easy clam. and then slowly down. So you can start lifting that top knee up and down, keeping the feet together, but then check in with that waistline. So that's super important. You don't lose that, and keeping the hips still. So don't let the hip roll backwards. The tendency with this side, not this side, either side, so particularly the side that's tighter, will want to roll the hips backwards to make it look like it's doing its job properly. Don't let the body roll to compensate for the hips. We've got 3 to go. Go. Keep the feet glued together. Don't forget that right oblique connection. Last one, you're going to hold it there. So lifting the knee and hold, and lift both those feet. Oh, that feels hard on the side, and come slowly down. Your knees can close or they can stay open, and then you can lift again. And this time, don't worry too much about that underside oblique. Keep the neck relaxed and just lift as high as you can and as wide as you can with the knees. Go. And keep those hips stacked. So now your hips are going to really want to roll backwards. So as long as they stay stacked to the floor, so that right angles of the hips to the floor. 2 to go. Gosh, everyone's gone very quiet. I don't know if it's pain or if I'm suffering alone. Last one. And come slowly all the way down. Bring those knees up nice and high in front of you. Give the bum a rub if you need to. I definitely need to. Oh, I feel tight today. And stretch that left arm out in front of you as far as you can. And then lifting it up and over and all the way behind you. Just let your spine soften and relax into that rotation. You can turn your head maybe to look towards your left side. So you just get a full twizzle down the spine. Let your knees and your hips rotate and slide and relax. And then just nice deep breaths in and out. You can adjust the stretch to kind of whatever rotation position feels like you're getting your best stretch. So it might be moving your arm a little bit on the side that's stretched out, or it might be moving your legs up or down a little bit. So you can do whatever feels comfortable for you in this particular one. And then you can bring that arm all the way up and over and stretch it forwards in front of you. So try and sink that left shoulder towards the mat a little bit, so that you get that counter rotation in the spine. And then bringing that hand all the way back in front of you. You can just push yourself over so that you're lying on your back. Here we go. Right. Ah, that was fun. I felt my glutes there today. Was it just me or was it you guys as well? Yeah, your bum. Did you feel your hips working? I don't know. Okay, anyway, just checking I'm not alone, you know. Right, take both the hands up to the ceiling. Interlace the fingers. Pop the hands behind your head. Here we go. Your elbows need to come up to just within your peripheral vision. So they're not allowed to close around your face, but they're just kind of hovering off the mat. I want you to tuck the chin in. So without lifting your head, you're glancing towards your chest. And then you lengthen the back of your spine and you lift your shoulders. So you're going into a little chest lift. Try and keep your lower back in a neutral position. So your knees are bent there, Dad. Yeah, knees are bent. Okay, perfect. Otherwise you're going to hurt the lower back. And then coming slowly back down. So just doing a good old classic chest lift. Lifting up, breathing out as you come up, and lowering slowly back down. And imagine that as you lift, it's not so much about crunching into the front, it's more about lengthening your thoracic spine. And be aware of your pelvis. Is your pelvis tilting? So as you lift, are you tucking your bum and trying to lift, or are you able to keep your spine neutral in terms of your lower back, so your pelvis doesn't actually move with this particular exercise? We've got 1 to go. And hold it up there. So coming up and hold. Now I want you to take one leg to tabletop and bring the other leg up to tabletop. Right, hold it there. Try and keep the height in your shoulders now as you rotate your rib cage towards your right side and straighten out your left leg. And then twist it back to the center. Don't lose height. Twist it to the left. So your rib cage, your shoulders are twisting. And then coming back to the center. And then twist the shoulders. The legs stay on the mat. So your hips stay on the mat. Your shoulders rotate. That's it. It's a good old classic crisscross. Careful you're not closing the elbows around the ears. And breathe. Almost done. One more to each side. So one to the right, one to the left. Keep pulling this belly button down towards the spine. Last one. Back to the center. And head and shoulders come down and hug those knees up to your chest. You could rock the body side to side just a little bit. Only really because it feels nice on the sides of the spine to kind of roll them out a little bit. Okay, and then popping the hands down next to your hips. Your knees are still up, so keep the knees up to your chest. They're quite kind of tucked up. And then keeping your lower legs floppy, I want you to take your kneecap so that your femur, so your leg bones are pointing up to the ceiling. So you're basically a tabletop, except that your lower legs are not lifted up. So your lower legs are floppy and your patella, your kneecaps are shining up at the ceiling. Your hands are down by your hips and your shoulders and your neck are nice and relaxed. Your spine is neutral. So pull that lower tummy muscle nice and tight so it stabilizes your spine in that position. And then start tapping one foot at a time down to the mat. So this is a dissociation of the hips. You're trying to move your legs around your pelvis without your pelvis getting involved. That's why your tummy is stabilizing your pelvis in that position. Your abdominals have to do all the work here. Your hip flexors might start saying, how's it? But try and ignore them. Try and let them just be elastic. Remember our standing hip swinging exercise? Imagine that your hips are just swinging up and down. You're just going for a little jog. Your lower tummy is doing all the work. Your shoulders and your neck are relaxed. Sometimes it helps to point your palms up to the ceiling. It means that you don't like clamp into the floor with your hands. So you're still marching up and down with those knees. Your tummy is still nice and engaged, but your ribs are elastic, so you can still breathe into your rib cage. We're doing 30 seconds of this. Probably need a clock. It's umimbe. And then you're going to start doing larger cycling circles. So I want you to take your legs, your feet out away from you. And imagine these little ping pong balls on the floor that you're kind of brushing towards your bum. So you're doing big cycling actions with those feet. Again, it's about the lower tummy. You're brushing the floor with the balls of your feet. Nice. Shoulders are relaxed. Hip flexors are definitely awake, but the lower tummy is doing more work than anything else. And don't forget to breathe. Got about 10 seconds to go of this direction. And then we're going to change direction. So see if you can go the other way. You're brushing those ping pong balls away from your bum. This one is much harder in the hip flexors, but the lower tummy muscles are still doing the support work. This is the hardest direction. I promise we're going to be done in about 15 seconds. Relax the shoulders and the neck. Keep the focus on those tummy muscles. Ribs are relaxed. 5 seconds to go. And when you are done, you can collapse. No, don't. Hold the knees up to your chest. Hug them up nice and tightly. Because as the tummy muscles fatigue, the lower back sometimes takes over a little bit. So don't force it into that kind of space of fatigue. So you want to stop before that or change your angles and all that stuff. Anyway, that's very nicely done. Well done, everybody. Pop those feet down onto the mat, both of them. And yeah, so your knees are bent, hip distance apart. And just to release the pelvis, we're going to squeeze the bum and roll the hips up all the way into a nice high bridge. So going as high as you can, so long as you feel like it's just opening up the front of the hips. Don't hurt the lower back or anything like that. Just release the front and holding it there. Nice deep breath in, and then peel that spine all the way back down onto the mat. Lower back pushes into the mat, and you can release the hips. All right, taking the hands just a little bit out to the side, so they're going to be at a low V. Bring your legs back up to your tabletop and glue your legs together. So the knees and the ankles are glued together. Now, we've done quite a lot of our hips or our knees side to side exercise. So when we had the tennis ball between the knees, we took our knees over to the left side, for example, driving with the right leg, rolling the ball over the left knee. And then we bring it back to the center with our seat belts. And then we go over to the right side, driving with the left leg, and then come back to the center. Right. We're going to add on to that one. We're going to drive across to the left side with the right knee, then dip the knees down in a U shape, coming around to the right side, and then bring it back into the center with our seatbelt. So you're doing like a half moon sort of movement. You go straight over to the right, you dip down with your knee. So you're drawing the pattern with your kneecaps, like these little lasers that are kind of going to draw this kind of half moon. The half circle actually, because it's straight across the top. So going over to the left, keep the knees level the whole time. This is all about your spine actually doing the work, with your tummy muscles supporting. Your arms can be pressing a little bit, so you are supporting with the arms. Breathe as your legs go down and around. That's when your out breath happens. Going over to the left or the right, going in sort of your own speed. So now the position of your spine will be moving, so it's not about anchoring that. Going down and around, up and across. There's always a straight line across the top of that kind of half circle that you're doing. And coming back to the center, and let's even ourselves out. So finishing off on the side that you did not start on, if you can even remember where that was. And coming back to the center and hug those knees up to the chest. So that's also an intermediate level. It's called the corkscrew. When you get more advanced, then we actually lift the bum off the floor, but that feels like it's highly irresponsible. So I'm not sure we'll ever get to that point, don't fear. Place the right foot down onto the mat, left foot crossed over, going into a little hip stretch. Lift that right leg up, hold behind your right thigh. Pull that knee up towards your chest as much as you can. So remember your 3-point checklist. Knee up to chest, left elbow bends and pushes into that left thigh. And then you lengthen that tailbone just a tiny fraction. So no one will even see you move, but it's a little arch in the lower back maybe. But don't lose the pull on the right knee, and don't lose the push on the left thigh. And then re-lengthen the tailbone and re-pull on the knee and re-push on the thigh. So just keep cycling through that and taking deep breaths as you go through that little checklist in your brain. Because there's always something that will give a little and try and get away from the stretch. And then gently just releasing that. You can cross that right leg all the way over left leg all the way over the right, sorry. Hold onto your shins, walk the hands towards your ankles if you can. Pull those knees tightly up to your chest and see if you can pull your ankles away from one another. That's it. So you should feel a deep stretch now in the left glute, so in that piriformis. It's an easy muscle to trap that sciatic nerve in. We just want to keep it well maintained. Remember to breathe. So it's very easy to shallow breathe when we're stretching. The deeper you can breathe, the better your oxygenation of those muscles and fascia. And then you can gently just release those legs. Place your right foot down, uncross the left leg, and cross the right ankle onto the left thigh. Lifting that left leg up, hold behind the thigh. Excuse me. And pull that left knee up as tightly as you can towards your chest. So you initially want to get the stretch just by pulling the knee up towards the chest. Then you add on the right elbow bends, push onto the right thigh, the The tailbone lengthens. Pull a little bit more on that knee. Lengthen the tailbone. Push on the thigh. Seems like a stuck record, but it really is like your body just keeps getting away from it. So you have to just keep going through that list of like check, 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 pull, 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 push, push, push. You know, it's kind of just like parenting. Nag, 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 nag. Monique and Mom are like right on the same page right now. Okay, sliding that right leg all the way over the left. Hold onto your shins, walk those hands down towards the ankles a little bit, pull the knees tightly up to your chest, and see if you can pull those ankles a little bit apart and feel that big stretch into your piriformis on the right side. Again, try and relax the neck and the shoulders. Try and take deep breaths, although your knees are squashing up into your lungs. There's not much space to breathe, but try and breathe as deeply as you can. And then we're going to just gently release that. Put your left foot down, uncross the right leg, and bring both knees up to your chest, holding it tightly up there. You're going to round yourself into a tiny little ball if you can. So lift the chest and the shoulders and round. Look to your bum if you can. Get yourself into that sort of a little shape. And then you're going to hold behind your thighs, give yourself a kick, and just roll yourself up into sitting. Right. Swivel yourself all the way up onto the balls of your feet. So you're on your haunches. And you're going to have your fingertips on the mat. So you're on the balls of your feet. Your feet are sort of hip distance apart. Push your bum up towards the ceiling and hang yourself down towards your knees. So keep your fingertips down on the mat. You want to get your chest towards your knees as much as you can. So if your knees are super bent, that's fine. It's more about folding yourself in half or forwards as much as you possibly can. Check in with your feet. So have you got your weight evenly distributed over those triangles under your feet? And in this position, so you've got quite a hamstring stretch. See if you can kind of do that little shift that we started with. So side to side. You're now just shifting your hips over. Your hands are still down. So if you feel a bit of vertigo on this one, then stop. Just shift your weight side to side. You're kind of swaying. And it means you'll get a bigger stretch on one hamstring than the other and a bit of a tension on the opposite one. And then you can maybe shift forwards and backwards. So going into the heels and then towards the balls of the feet. Don't quite fall over if possible. And almost done. You're going to bend the knees so that you release that hamstring stretch. Come all the way down onto your haunches again, because there's quite a lot of tension going into the hamstrings. And then for the next one, you're going to push into your fingertips, push into your toes, bum up towards the ceiling and find the bottom of your roll down. So release your hands. Your knees become just soft, so just off straight. And just hang there for a second. And then on your next breath out, you take a breath in and then you breathe out. You start restacking your spine. Building one vertebra on top of the other. Growing up tall through the spine. Your head comes on top of your shoulders. And just lengthen up through the crown of your head. Take your arms out to the side. Deep breath in. Fill the lungs. And breathing out. The next one, you're going to come up onto your toes. Breathe in. You can lift the heels. And breathing all the way out. And shake it out. And shimmy into the weekend. Yay, it's Friday. So exciting. There we go.